Thank you all so much for being here. Last night, Cincinnati police officers were involved in the non-lethal shooting of an adult man, following a response by Cincinnati police officers to a 911 call and an altercation with the armed individual in Walnut Hills. I'm here with Police Chief Teresa Thigi, City Manager Long, and Councilmember Johnson to discuss the incident and the process moving forward. At the top, I want to thank our police department for their swift action and their focus on keeping the surrounding area safe. As you'll see in the body cam footage, the 911 call and the dash cam, our public safety professionals, be they our 911 operators or our responding officers, responded incredibly professionally, and because of their brave actions, further life-threatening instances were mitigated. Thank you so much to their dedication, and really was struck by how calm the responding officers were in providing their commands to try and de-escalate. I also want to thank all the other first responders and health professionals for their excellent work. As with every officer-involved shooting, there will be an investigation into this incident with the Citizen Complaint Authority and CPD running their own parallel investigations. We are committed, as always, to a thorough process that is transparent and in accordance with the collaborative agreement. And I'm confident that the CCA, our police department, and our city administration will direct these investigations with transparency and clarity. Thank you, and it's now my honor to introduce City Manager Long.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to acknowledge the efforts of Cincinnati Police Department and commend the officers during this unfortunate incident. And while the situation was unfortunate, it could have been considerably worse. This speaks to the importance of continued investment in mental health services in addition to training for our officers. Without those things, I think specifically as we talk about the training or the mental health support, the city will be committed to making sure we fund that in the future so that people can depend on those with their needs. Now I would like to take care to change the Chief Thigi, and your turn. Sorry.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for being here today. As the mayor mentioned, we're going to recap a critical incident we had late last night. So on March 2nd, 2025, at approximately 9:30 p.m., Cincinnati police officers responded to 3050 Gilbert Avenue for a report of an individual armed with a gun and a knife. Upon arrival at the scene, officers attempted to de-escalate the situation, but when the subject made a decision to charge at the officers with his weapon, one officer discharged their weapon to protect themselves and others from this attack. In situations involving immediate threats, officers must make split-second decisions to ensure the safety of bystanders, themselves, and the community as a whole. These decisions are not made lightly. As evident by what you're about to see, clear and present danger existed last night. So we're going to walk you through, I think we have a total of about 10 slides. Shouldn't take too long. Go ahead, Bobby. The first slide is an aerial shot, and it's got the 911 call embedded in it. So you'll hear what the officers was relayed to the officers from the 911 call center.
Cincinnati 911, what is the address of your emergency?
Yes, my name is Ryan. It's an emergency at 3051 Gilbert Avenue.
Okay, repeat the address for me.
3051 Gilbert Avenue.
What's a good phone number for you?
Number is fine.
Are you at 3050 Gilbert by chance? The 3051?
Yeah, 3050, yeah, I'm sorry, 3050 Gilbert Avenue. I need you to send the police.
Okay, tell me exactly what happened.
I just need you to stand more than one cop, or you stand multiple. And there's a man with a gun, and a man with a knife. And he's extremely dangerous, and I'm fearing for my life. He's wearing some red and blue.
Okay, I'll get a description in a second.
Please.
Is this a house or an apartment?
This is the apartment,
Okay, what's your apartment number?
He's outside, but he's outside. Okay, how fast can you get here?
I don't have an ETA.
I need you to get here as soon as possible before somebody gets hurt, please.
Okay, I'm getting started. I gotta ask you some questions. Just stay on the line for me. When did this happen?
It's happening now. No.
Okay, where's the suspect now?
He's outside. Extremely dangerous. He's running the night. He's on the dangerous, man.
Okay, I need to get the suspect's description. Is it male, white, black, Hispanic, Asian?
He's black. He's tall. He's like 6'1".
Okay,
He's
how old is
bald.
he?
Huh?
How old is he?
I don't know his age. I just know he's extremely dangerous when you get here, or am I supposed to figure this out myself?
No, I'm getting upset, but I have to get his description. How much does he weigh?
I don't know, man. He looks like he's probably around like 190.
What's he wearing?
He's wearing a blue coat. He's wearing some light gray jogging pants.
Can you see his shirt?
No, now he has a coat on. You hear me?
I'm getting this put in. Hold on just a second.
Okay, can you hurry up, please?
This is not delaying services. I just have to get all this information in for officers.
Okay. It's very dangerous.
Where outside is he? Is he in the front, the back?
He's in the front now.
Okay, I'm updating officers now. Describe the weapons to me.
Okay. Okay, is that all?
Describe the weapon to me.
He has a knife in his hand now.
Is it a pocket knife? Is it a kitchen knife?
I don't know. It looks dangerous. It looks sharp.
Is that what you done over there?
It looks like
Where's the weapon now?
he has it in his hand, you know.
Okay. Are you at that location now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is there anyone else in danger right now?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Are you able to get yourself to safety?
I'm trying to. He's dangerous.
Okay, if you think you can leave safely, get away and call us from somewhere safe. If the
Okay.
person is nearby and you are unable to leave safely, keep very quiet, stay out of sight. Silent ringer and vibration on your cell phone. Do not put yourself in any danger. Try to avoid contact with them. Lock your doors and windows.
Yes, ma'am.
If the person leaves the scene, tell me immediately.
Okay.
If it is safe to do so, observe them continuously.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
If you can leave safely, get away now. Where are you going?
I don't know.
Okay, so that call started at 9:29 hours last night. You could hear the male caller talk about a guy in the parking lot armed with a knife and a gun. He also reiterates to the dispatcher, the call taker, that the guy's armed and dangerous, send many officers, I fear for my life. That was all the context that was relayed to the officers. You saw a long driveway. Can you go back for a second, Bobby? Just to the left of the address there in print, you see a long, narrow driveway. The video you're about to see, that's where the encounter took place. So you'll see it from officer's body cam as well as their in-car camera. This first video that you're going to see is the officer, the primary officer that was involved. These two officers was a two-person unit. They arrive at 9:35 hours, so within 6 minutes of the original call. At 9:36, fourth officer arrives, and 9:37, additional officers arrive. The shots were fired by the police at 9:41. So it's a pretty quick evolving incident. Go ahead, Bobby.
Is that your name, Pete? We're not here to shoot you, man. Drop down the knife. Drop the knife, man, please. Drop the knife, please. There's better options. We can help you out. Put down the knife. Just drop the knife, man. What's going on? I need you to talk to me, Pete. Don't do this. Don't do this. I need you to talk to me, man. What's going on? Don't! Get down! Get down! Put your hands down! Put your hands behind your back now! See your hand! See your hand! See your hand! Show your hand! Put your hands behind your back. Put your hands behind your back. Roll on your stomach. Roll on your stomach. Roll on your stomach. Roll on your stomach. Roll squad. Roll squad. Go back inside! 618 for him so far. Here, check my trunk, just in case.
You can see what the officers did after the shots were fired. That's what they're trained to do. They secure the individual that was posing the threat, check on their well-being, put them in a position that is most likely that they can continue to breathe, and then they start rendering aid until the fire department arrives. Okay, this next footage you're going to see is the in-car camera from the officers who first arrived, the two-person unit. This has video, but no audio. What it's going to show you is discharging the firearm again, the recovery position that we put the individual in, and render the aid before the paramedics arrive. Go ahead, Bobby. Bobby, can you stop it for 1 second? I want to point something out. So this right here, from the front of the car where the officers are to where the suspect is approximately 20 feet before he starts advancing towards the officers, which you'll see. In our training, an edged weapon, we do specific training for firearms and we do specific training for edged weapons. The more likely that the more that they close that gap to the officer with an edged weapon, the more likely of a deadly encounter. Okay, I want you to keep that in mind when you see that from this perspective. The knife is in his right hand at this moment. So like I said, it was approximately 20 feet, and then he took numerous steps, so that closed the gap even further, heightening the risk to the officers. It's just a different angle from what you saw before, where they secure him and put him in a position so that he could breathe. And they are trained for all of this. We've got some basic first aid training, the positioning for the airway and such. Okay, this is Mr. Patrick Lyons. As you can see, 31 years old. This is the individual who was shot last night by our officers. Mr. Lyons has a criminal history. He just recently got out of prison for serving 12 years for an aggravated robbery. He has been out for 2 months before last night's encounter. Here's the weapon that he had in his hand that we recovered at the scene. And in keeping in compliance with Marcy's law, we're not going to be revealing the officers' names who were involved. We'll refer to them as 1 through 5. Officer number 1 is the one who discharged his firearm. You can see he's a fairly new officer with our department, assigned to District 2. His partner was the most tenured officer on the scene, has approximately 10 years with us, also assigned to District 2. Here's an officer who's even newer to our department, September of 24, District 2. Another District 2 officer who's only been with us since September of 24. And then lastly, there was a canine officer on the scene who was on patrol last night as well and responded to the radio run. He's been on since 2019. So you can see this is a very young group of officers who performed, in my opinion, like 20, 30-year veterans. They did a great job. Their training kicked in. They did exactly what we would expect them to do last night. All right, so we will take any questions you might have.
The number of shots, we didn't hear how many shots?
2 shots.
2 shots.
2 shots. Keep in mind, we are less than 24 hours into this, so a lot of it is preliminary, but as to this point, our investigation indicates 2 shots.
And both by the same officer?
Correct.
And the man who was shot was the man who called 911?
That is still part of the ongoing investigation, but that's where it's leading us.
They said gun and knife when the officers were under the impression that was what was happening. Was there any indication that there was a gun at some point, or that he had a gun here, or did you recover one?
Yeah, we did not recover one at the scene, and we did not recover one off of his person.
Chief, I know you can't speak for other municipalities. We've seen officer-involved shootings over the weekend in Hamilton County and in Covington, and we didn't have press conferences to be able to speak with their leaders. Why did you want to be able to speak with us, and why did you feel necessary to have a press conference about this particular incident?
Yeah, so and I think the mayor mentioned it in his comments here. This is what we do. This is who we are. And this is part of our commitment to transparency and our collaborative agreement. You know, we just put it all out there for the community to understand exactly what the officers dealt with last night.
Have you guys determined whether this guy in some sort of, and we mentioned mental health as part of this, how big of a factor was mental health in this situation here?
Yeah, I'm not going to answer that at this point. It would cause me to speculate quite heavily. That would be up to his family members to disclose to anybody who wanted to know. Sure.
Yeah, I certainly won't speculate. I will say, though, that any time there is a mental health crisis, irrespective of this incident, there are warning signs for loved ones, family members, etc. And so to the extent you believe that a loved one is experiencing a mental health crisis or is suicidal, please do reach out to CPD proactively. Please do reach out to other healthcare providers. We want to know that so that we can get that person in crisis to the services necessary in that moment.
The other thing I wanted to mention was, if you wouldn't mind talking about, I know there's a circle of danger for somebody, and you touched on it with an edged weapon or a knife. I don't know if a lot of people understand just how far away you can be and still be in a dangerous situation. Could you explain a little more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So you could see, it wasn't like Mr. Lyons was slowly walking towards the officers. He went into a sprint, and he was headed right towards the officers. How much distance he could close, within a short period of time is up to anybody's, ability to run at a fast pace. What we do know is 10 to 12 feet is deadly, absolutely deadly for an edged weapon encounter. And that's how we train our officers. And like I told you, before he even took any steps, he was about 20 feet.
Are drugs and alcohol believed to have played a role in this incident?
It's way too soon to know about that. That'll come out with the toxicology report. Yeah.
It was difficult. I'm not sure if I totally heard. I heard some of the officers, pleading with him to stop. What was he saying in response to the officers? What was he telling them?
Yeah, at one point he was telling them that they had 10 seconds, almost like giving a warning to the officers that something's going to be happening. So he does tell them they've got 10 seconds just before he starts advancing on them. I do want to stress something that the mayor just mentioned about resources for people suffering with mental health. And I couldn't agree with him more. CPD can be a resource to get family members connected with mental health professionals. If you try to do it through another avenue and you just feel like you're hitting a wall or can't make headway, call us. We have resources within our department. We have resources outside of our department. We would much rather work with family members to point them or get them in the right direction of mental health resources before we encounter an incident such as this.
Chief, is there any possibility for other charges against the suspect?
That will be up to the prosecutor's office. And just to let you know, this is our normal protocol. Citizens Complaint Authority was at the scene last night. They will do a parallel investigation. Our internal investigation section was at the scene. They will do an administrative investigation. And the Hamilton County Prosecutor's Office was at the scene working in partnership with our homicide unit. We always look at this from a criminal aspect first.
I know you said a lot of the officers there were newer. Have any of them been involved in officer-involved shootings before? Do any of them have a history with that?
Yeah, not to my knowledge. No.
In the training on something like this, officers are not trained to shoot to wing somebody or knock them down. They're trained to stop the threat. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's correct. They are trained to stop the threat. And only they know at that moment what is going to stop that threat. I can never tell them, you must do this, because I think while I'm sitting at home that would have stopped the threat. It's up to them on what they're encountering in that moment and the decisions that they make based on their training and their experience.
Last question. What's the man's current condition? I think you mentioned a toxicology report. So non-lethal.
Yeah, he had surgery last night for the wounds. I talked with his family just before the press conference here. He is still in the hospital, but he is doing well and expected to recover.
Chief, if I could just make one last statement, just reiterating the question about why we do press conferences so quickly. It is, as exactly what the chief mentioned, this is what we do. It's enshrined in our collaborative agreement. It's enshrined in our training. It's enshrined in the commitment that the leaders before you have to specifically transparency, because we believe that engenders more trust within our community, which ultimately makes us all safer. So all of the things that the chief is talking about with respect to having CCA on the scene, having a parallel investigation, having a press conference within 24 hours of an officer-involved shooting, getting you all the information that we have, even as the chief mentioned, some of it is preliminary, as soon as possible. And that includes, obviously, all of the public records, 911 calls, and body cam footage as soon as we can responsibly get it to the public. That is our commitment. It's shown here today. It's shown in the previous officer-involved shootings, and that will continue. Thank you all so much.
Thanks, guys. Have a good day.